Snell, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Smith, would you please tell us your full name?
Sure. Travis Smith,
And who are you employed by?
the City of Tempe.
How long have you been employed by the City of Tempe?
6 years.
What is your position there?
I'm a police officer.
Okay, and have you been a police officer for the entire 6 years?
Yes, I have.
What is your current assignment?
I'm in patrol. I work the streets.
Okay. I'm going to draw your attention back to December of 2009. Were you on patrol at that time as well?
Yes, I was.
Okay. In particular, I'm going to draw your attention to the date of December 9th, 2009. Did you work that day?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what shift did you typically work at that time?
It's what's called a swing shift. So I worked basically like 5 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Okay. And were you dispatched to the 99-cent only store at about 18:42 hours that night?
Yes, I was.
And is that about 6:42 p.m.?
Yes.
And why were you dispatched to that location?
Our dispatch received a call that a female was disturbing at that location.
So when you went to that location, who else was there as far as other officers?
Officer Amasquita and Officer Jones had also been dispatched.
Okay. And when you arrived, tell us what you first saw when you first arrived.
Sure. I walked in, and an employee said that the female that they called about was in the hallway next to the employee area where they could take breaks and lunches. So I walked back there, and I contacted a female who matched the description given on the call and began speaking with her.
Okay. And did you later identify that female to be someone by the name of Elizabeth Johnson?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now, when you made contact with her, what did you do at that point?
I brought her away from the employee area and walked her over to kind of like the stockings area so the other officers could speak to other people away from her, just so we weren't talking to them next to each other.
Okay. And did you speak to her about what she was claiming happened that day?
Well, initially I just got the call that it was disturbing, so I was just figuring out why she was there and what was going on.
Okay. And did you do that by speaking to her?
Yes, I did.
All right. And when you spoke to her, was anyone else present?
At the very beginning, it was just me and her, while the other officers were contacting the other people in the store.
Okay. And while you were speaking with when it was just you and her alone, was that part of your conversation with her recorded?
No, it was not.
Okay. Now, eventually, at some point, the conversation was recorded. Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And how did that come about to happen?
Once I began getting some knowledge that there might be a missing child, seeing how both parties were saying that they didn't know where the child was, then it became not a disturbing call, and it was maybe a missing child call.
Okay. And was it at that point that you began recording?
Yes.
Did you use your own recorder?
Yes, I did.
All right. And while you recorded the conversation, was anyone else present at that time?
Yeah, Officer Amasquita was.
Okay. Was he present during the whole conversation, or did he kind of come in and out?
During my entire conversation with Elizabeth, or just during the recording?
Just during the recording.
Yes, he was.
He was present for the whole recording.
Yes, he was.
Now, I'd like to talk to you about the part of the conversation that wasn't recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Did you speak to her? Well, did she tell you about having contact with the police at a previous time?
Yeah.
Okay, and what did she say about that?
She said earlier in the day, Logan and her child had left. She didn't know where they were, so they called the police. Officer Williams responded, told her that they couldn't make a report at that time because he was the father. A little bit later, Officer Williams returned with Logan and the child.
Okay, and did she state that Logan brought the child home and then the officer left?
Yes.
And did she tell you at that time that then Logan took the baby again from her care at that point?
Correct. She said after a short conversation between her and Logan left as well. She said Logan took the child with him, but she was okay with that because she knew where the child was going and that the child was with Logan.
Okay.
So she didn't call the police at that time.
All right. And then did she indicate that she hadn't heard from him in a while, and that's why she went to the 99-cent store?
Correct. During our conversation, she was saying all that was taking place in the morning. But when I got into the time frame and asked our dispatch about her location, about calls for service, it turned out that Officer Williams and that whole incident had occurred the day before. So it had been over 24 hours since that incident had occurred.
Okay, so I just want to back up a little bit. You indicated that she was representing to you that all these events had occurred that day on December 9th?
Correct.
Okay. But based on the information you gave her, you did some follow-up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is that, you said you checked to see if Officer Williams had in fact gone out to the home?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
I pulled our premise history, which is just a log of every address we're at. And I put her address that she advised me into that, and our dispatch said that we had been out there not earlier today, but earlier the day before.
And that would have been December 8th?
Yes.
All right. When you learned that information, what did you do?
I questioned her about it, and eventually she admitted to me that she had been wrong with the dates, but chalked it up to a mistake.
That was her chalking it up to a mistake?
Yeah, she said it was just her mistake by saying it was earlier today, but it actually occurred the day before.
Okay. Did she represent to you, or actually did you represent to her at that point that you were very concerned about where the baby was?
Right.
And that was what your intent was in questioning her?
Right.
All right. Did she report to you that it had been 24 hours then since the baby had been missing?
Right. Once we got the date straight, we figured out it had been over 24 hours.
Now, the conversation that you had with her that was recorded, was that impounded into evidence at the Tempe Police Department?
Yes, it was.
All right. And after you spoke with her, did you take any other action in investigating this incident?
No, after I relayed to Officer Mosquito what I had obtained from Elizabeth, I left the scene.
Okay. Did you contact Frank McQuarrie?
Yes, I did.
All right. And did you also contact Robert Johnson?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was that to inquire as to the whereabouts of the child Gabriel?
Yeah, we were just trying to figure out if maybe the child was with them.
Okay. And did you receive any information that the child was with either of those parties?
No.
Okay. And did you also relay that information to the other officers at the scene?
Yes.
Okay. And then you left the scene?
Yep.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's marked as Exhibit 119.
All right.
Okay, and is that the recording of your conversation with Ms. Johnson that day?
It is.
Okay. And at this time, the people, or the state moves to enter into evidence Exhibit number 119.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 119 is admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Now, Officer Smith, before we listen to this, there's some background music in the recording. Is that from the store?
Yeah, that's the store's. It was around Christmas time, so they had the Christmas music over the PA system.
Okay, so we're going to play that. Before we do, Kim's going to pass out. Let me make sure, counsel, this is correct. What we're passing out to the jurors right now is a transcript of what they're about to hear, and the transcript's an agreed-upon transcript. In other words, both the state and the defense agree that the transcript you're getting is an accurate report of what you're about to hear over the speaker. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So let's pass that out before we play it. Before we start, a couple things, ladies and gentlemen. At the conclusion of this tape, we're going to collect these again. You can't keep the transcripts, but now that the audio itself is in, that's an exhibit that you'll have back in the jury room when you're deliberating, so you'll be able to listen to it again, but you won't be able to keep the transcript going forward. Okay, so we can go ahead and play the audio.
Apartment and Logan was gone, correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay. What is correct then?
While I was returning the phone, Officer Williams said, okay, everything's fine, blah, blah, I'm not going to have to come back here. I said, no, of course not. So he left, drove away. I went back to my apartment. My boyfriend's still there with the baby, and we talked for quite a while.
Okay. Then what happened?
Then he left.
Okay, did he take the child with him?
I told him that, yes.
Okay, what time did he leave last night?
It wasn't last night. It was in the afternoon around 1:30. I don't know.
So he left at 1:30.
I don't know the exact time.
Okay, he left at approximately 1:30, 2 o'clock, whatever. He left at after 1 o'clock yesterday. Was he with Gabriel?
Yes.
And you were okay with him taking Gabriel like that?
Yes, I just wanted to know where he was, why he didn't call me, and to call me and let me know where my child was. That's all I ever wanted to know.
Okay. So he took Gabriel last night?
Yeah. No, not last night.
Yesterday afternoon after 1 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. And today you became concerned? Is that what I understand?
I was absolutely perfect today. Absolutely confident and reassured that everything was fine because, you know, we had settled things with the police officer until I got a mysterious call. So I thought something was up. I didn't know what. No one would call me but him from this store. I called it back 3 times.
All right. And so you came over here?
Yes, very concerned. I just want to know what happened because he called me and then I kept calling and no one would answer me back and I'm like, what's going on? And you can understand me freaking out.
Okay. So what happened when you got here?
Absolutely nothing but me walking in, seeing him. He was right in that aisle next to you and he went that way and went around, so I followed him. And I've been here many times before and I've gone to the back with him. There's never been a problem.
Okay. So what happened once you got to the back?
I knocked on the door. This girl that I haven't even seen coming from behind me, I don't know her name, I've never seen her, never met her before, just tackled me and trapped me and just wrestled me, and I don't know why. I didn't say a word to her and nothing happened, and I really wish that you guys would believe me and check video cameras.
There's no video cameras back there. I've already looked.
There's no video cameras back there?
In this main hallway.
Convenient.
Well, I've got 3 people saying that nobody ever touched you. You tried to push past one of them to get in
there
there.
was just me and whoever that girl was, and she had blocked me and wrestled
Just
me.
you 2, right?
Yes, and I didn't do anything. I just stood there like, what are you doing? Who are you?
Okay, where did that happen?
Right over in that hallway.
There's 2 hallways. There's the straight one and the one that goes out.
The straight one and the one that turns.
Okay, well, which hallway did it happen?
The one that turns.
Okay. The employees only area.
I wasn't in the employees area. I was in the hallway.
Well, that hallway says there's a sign that says employees only.
Not in the hallway.
It's on the door.
Hallways, bathrooms, and...
Well, that's the hallway that runs this way.
Okay, well maybe I was wrong.
I'm asking you.
Okay?
I wasn't there, so I gotta
didn't
get
think I was wrong, okay?
Yeah, I gotta
I
get
thought I was right. I thought that it was okay for me to come here and I didn't even want to come here. All I wanted to do was call about the emergency with my son. See where he was. All I
Why
wanted.
did you assume there was an
I
emergency?
called 3 times.
Why?
He called me first.
So, we gotta get this, come to a resolution here and
Yes,
find your
we
son.
do.
So, how are we gonna find your son?
I don't know. You just told me that there's someone going to my home.
Trailer? Yes.
Is it going to be in the trailer? Is Gabriel going to be inside the
No,
trailer?
he's not in the trailer.
Okay.
He's 7 years old.
Where else would he be?
So again, that's what I came here to confront him about, but he
You said you turned over the child yesterday at
has over
1:30 and
9,999 different items, priced at 99.99 cents or less every day. Fresh bags of Dole salads, potatoes.
Why didn't you call the police?
Delicious tomatoes.
After he left with your kid the second time?
Cauliflower, juices, bread, and milk. Save more.
Officer Williams
Shop 99 cents only stores first.
ingrained that in my brain. His son, he can do whatever he wants with him. He can do whatever he wants. He can go wherever he wants. He can take the child with me. Me and Officer Williams had a very deep conversation.
So why
And
have you been...
after Officer
Go
Williams
ahead.
left, I was completely calm and fine with everything.
So why have you been lying to me and Officer Jones this entire time?
What am I lying about?
When it happened, the order and what it happened, what was
Did I
going
lie about
on?
it happened?
When did all this take place? You calling the police and everything?
I told you like 5 times.
When?
I called at like 10 o'clock.
Which day?
Tuesday.
So why for about 45 minutes where you kept on saying this morning, this morning, this morning? Happened all this morning. Happened today.
I wasn't lying. I really thought I was confused. I'm sorry. I've been upset. I've been distressed.
You were confused about what day you
I know it was Tuesday because I know it was the day he was off of work.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And then when I asked you when he came back at like noonish when Officer Williams was there, you told me he didn't bring the kid, he just picked up stuff.
No,
Ma'am?
I did not tell you that. He brought the kid, he picked up his stuff, and he left.
I specifically asked
I was
you.
fine with it.
I specifically asked asked you, was your kid there? You said no. He just showed up because he said he wanted to pick up his property. That's not true? So that's gonna lie?
Play it back, maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're wrong, you are wrong.
Play it back. I don't think I'm wrong. Why are you guys doubting me?
Because we're getting stories from 3 or 4 other people. You're telling us.
There are people that Logan and the officer involved.
No, I'm not talking about yesterday. I don't doubt what you said.
99 to
yesterday at all.
please.
Not even a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. My
I
only
was
concern.
sick. I don't think I'm surprised. Nobody wanted to call me.
What's your name? Elizabeth. Okay. Elizabeth, my concern right now is where the location of the child. That's it. That's my main concern.
I don't have him. I just thought it was a job. He's supposed to be taking care of him. If he doesn't want to be with me taking care of him, that's fine. I don't care. But if someone calls me at this time of night, I get a little worried. And
How is it?
especially when Logan tells me he's going to call me on his break after he calls me.
Did he tell you that personally, or somebody here?
He told me that personally.
Well, it sounds like some kind of game that
You just told us earlier that you didn't talk to him.
When did he tell you that?
Somebody called me from this number.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up and hung up.
Yep.
I called back, busy signal. I called back again. They put me on hold for a while. He said he'll call me on his lunch break. Hung up on me. I called back again, and again was put on hold for 10 minutes.
Where do you live right now? You still live at the trailer?
Yes.
Do you have any family members here in town?
Not in Tempe. I have one in Scottsdale. I have 2 in Scottsdale.
Who's there?
My grandfather and my brother.
Grandfather?
Which I also called the family that day, wondering where the heck my son is.
Okay, what are their names and what are their phone numbers?
They're both open to Robert Thompson.
Okay.
And my grandfather's number is 480-947-1188.
We have Channel B call.
And my brother's number is 480-505. I don't know, I'm sorry. Well, my grandfather provided me this number. And I called them both friends, wondering, telling them the same exact story I'm telling you, that he ran away with my child. I had no idea who he was.
Give my phone on you, I'll call. I don't have mine on me.
So, what is it going to take for one of you to believe me?
I'm believing you. I'm trying to get to the guy. That's all.
I thought Logan was going to actually tell me something, give me some information, which is why I came running here. But I want you to come back and see the phone records. See calls me first. I want you to believe me. I want you to know that everything you're saying is correct and true. I want you to text my apartment. I want you to check the phone records. I don't have a cell phone. I don't have a phone.
Phone call twice, though.
I would have never called you. Here, you can call me.
I'm sorry, I don't have my 21 on me. Can you make a 21 for me, please?
You wanted him to sign it?
I did. Everybody? No, that's not why I came here. That's not what I said at all. That's not one word of what I said.
I'm telling you.
I did appreciate my
Going around?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Gracias.
And I've got almost been 24 hours.
Hold on.
According to him, you had it. According to Logan. Who am I supposed to blame?
Who am I supposed to blame?
Officer Smith, I know that near the end there's a lot of unintelligible voices going on there. Do you remember any parts of that last part of the conversation?
No, I don't.
Independently? But as you left it with Elizabeth that day, towards the end of your conversation, she had continued to report that the child was still missing.
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
No questions, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Officer, oops, wait a minute. Let me see if the jury's got any questions for you. Any questions for Officer Smith before we let him step down? Doesn't look like it. May this witness be excused, Ms. Romano?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
You may step down, thank you. And the state may call its next witness.
Detective Duplissis.
Okay, let's go ahead and get Detective Duplissis. Ms. Romano, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, would you please state your full name for us?
Yes, my name's Gary Duplissis.
And Detective, how are you employed?
I'm a peace officer with the City of Tempe Police Department.
And what is your position there?
I'm a detective on a person's crime squad.
All right. And how long have you been in that position?
I've been a detective for 12 years. I spent 7 years working with youth in school settings. And then for the last 5 years, I've been on this squad and also on an auto theft squad.
And how long total have you been employed by the City of Tempe?
Over 15 years.
And I'm going to draw your attention back to December of 2009. What was, you were a detective at that time, correct? 'Cause I believe
Yes, I
for
was.
the last 5 years you were on the which detail?
Person's crimes unit.
And at that time, did you become involved in an investigation involving a missing child by the name of Gabriel Johnson?
I did.
All right. Now, during that investigation, did you originally become involved on or about December 28th of 2009?
This is true.
Okay. And how were you asked to become involved in this case?
On the 28th, I was asked to attend a briefing that was held by patrol with the Criminal Investigations Division, where we were briefed on the incident that had been reported the day prior.
Okay. And when you refer to a briefing, can you briefly explain for the jury what that means?
Members of the patrol division briefed us about the report that they had taken the day prior involving the missing child, Logan McQuarrie, the father, and Elizabeth Johnson, the mother.
All right. And so essentially they gave all the information that was known at that time regarding the investigation?
Yes, including the written report.
Okay. And you stated that specifically you were asked to attend a court hearing that day?
I was.
Okay. And did you attend that court hearing?
I did.
Where was that held?
It was at the Family Court Center in Phoenix.
All right. And when you went to that hearing, were you the only officer that was present, at least as far as in an investigative capacity?
From my department, yes.
Okay. And what was the purpose in you attending that hearing?
I was directed to attend the hearing to answer any questions that the court may have and provide some testimony, some background about the report that had been filed the day prior.
Now, previously to going to that hearing, did you ever meet Logan McQuarrie?
I met him that day in the lobby outside of the courtroom.
All right. And did you get information from him about what had been going on at that point?
It was just a very brief meeting. I had been able to read the report and listen to the briefing, as I said earlier.
So he didn't advise you of any new information at that point?
None that I recall.
Now, did you in fact testify to the court?
I did.
And did you give the court the information that you had thus far regarding the investigation?
I did.
Okay. And at the conclusion of that hearing, what occurred?
The judge granted temporary custody of Gabriel Johnson to Logan McQuarrie.
All right. And did the court issue a document signifying his ruling?
The judge did.
Okay. And specifically, does that include a warrant to take custody of the child should the child be found?
Yes, ma'am.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit 54. Do you recognize that envelope?
I do.
And what is that?
This is an envelope, and it says original physical custody warrant. It has my name, my badge number, and it has my initials and ID number on the back.
And does that indicate that you impounded that item into evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, would you please take the document out that's located inside?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the document that you retrieved from the court that day?
It is.
The state moves to admit exhibit number 54 at this time.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 54 is admitted.
Now, Detective Duplissis, once you obtained this information, or once you obtained this document from the court, did you do anything else that day with regard to this investigation?
Yes, ma'am. I
And what
did.
was that?
I met with the county attorney. A charge of custodial interference was filed that day. I then met with a judge who issued a national arrest warrant. And then I met with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department, who entered the national warrant into the NCIC database.
Did you also contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children?
I did.
Okay, and what was your purpose in contacting them?
We were requesting the National Center's expertise in trying to locate the child and the mother and the vehicle involved in the incident. They're a well-known resource for investigative agencies. They're able to push out information to a wide-ranging network of sources and law enforcement contacts.
Okay. Now I'm going to draw your attention to the date of December 30th, 2009. On that date, did you take action also by contacting the Arizona Bureau of Health Statistics?
I did.
And why did you do that?
I contacted the Bureau of Health Statistics to flag the birth file of the missing child so that if anyone ordered a duplicate copy, we would be notified.
And did you follow up on various tips that were coming in at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'm going to draw your attention to the date of January 10th, 2010. At that time, did you assist Detective Thompson in preparing a presentation?
I did.
Okay. And was that for the San Antonio Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in preparing for that presentation, did you review various police reports and various items of evidence that were taken in this case?
I did.
Okay. And was the purpose of that to brief the San Antonio Police Department on what had occurred thus far?
The purpose was to assist Detective Thompson with this large volume of information so that he would be able to have an organized group of data to be able to make his presentation to San Antonio Police.
Right. And in helping Detective Thompson prepare for that, did you in fact review some field interrogation cards?
I did.
Okay, and a field interrogation card, what is that?
In our department, a field interrogation card, what we now call a street check, is something that we use to document contacts with people that typically don't represent a crime. So it would contain things like identifiers, phone, address, names, and the general reason for the police contact.
In particular, did you review a field interrogation card dated December 8th of 2009?
Yes, ma'am.
And did that indicate that there was a report made that Gabriel had been missing on that date?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was made by Elizabeth Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
And the report determined that there was not a missing child as the child was found with the father, Logan McQuarrie, at the grandmother's home.
This is true.
Now, did you also review the Tempe Police Department incident report dated December 9th, 2009?
Yes, ma'am.
And was this in regard to a disturbance at the workplace that had occurred at a 99-cent only store?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you also review a field interrogation card dated December 21st, 2009?
I did.
And was that a request by Logan McQuarrie for assistance from the Tempe Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and was that in particular to help locate his child for his court-ordered parenting time?
Yes, that's true.
Now, in addition to reviewing those field cards and the police report, did you also make copies of recordings from a digital recorder that Logan McQuarrie had provided?
Yes.
And how did you make those copies?
The digital recorder that Logan McQuarrie provided to Tempe Police was an early model of digital recorders. It didn't have a USB flash drive attached, and so I manually had to play the tape recordings in a quiet area at headquarters and record them with my late model digital recorder. And then I was able to plug my recorder into my computer and burn CDs.
Okay. And in making copies of those recordings, did you also listen to the recordings and create summaries of those recordings?
I did.
All right. Were there approximately 10 recordings that you made from that recorder?
There were.
Now, talk to you a little bit about those recordings. The recordings that you reviewed, did they include recordings between Logan McQuarrie and Elizabeth Johnson?
They did.
Did they include a recording between Logan McQuarrie and Tammy Smith?
2.
Did they also include recordings of phone calls between Tammy Smith, Jack Smith, and Logan McQuarrie?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in particular, the recordings involving Elizabeth Johnson, did those include the recordings where she claimed to have killed the child?
Yes, ma'am.
And in particular, with the recordings involving Jack Smith and Tammy Smith, did they include the first contact that Logan McQuarrie had with Tammy Smith at her place of work?
Yes, ma'am. Phone call, yes, ma'am.
Did it also include subsequent conversations where Tammy Smith and Jack Smith discussed the adoption of Gabriel Johnson and the whereabouts of Elizabeth Johnson at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now I want to zero in a little bit on some particulars in those recordings. With regard to the adoption of Gabriel Johnson, did Tammy Smith discuss with Logan McQuarrie different forms of adoption, such as open adoption?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did she talk to him about adoption on more than one occasion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In essence, was she trying to educate him or persuade him to consider letting them adopt Gabriel Johnson?
I think consider is a fair word.
Okay. And in particular, in dealing with the unknown whereabouts of Elizabeth Johnson and the child, did they talk to her about letting them handle the situation?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall the particulars of that conversation?
There was a conversation between Jack and Logan, primarily, where Jack was explaining that Elizabeth wanted an adoption to take place, and that if he would sign paperwork, he would have 5 days to review his decision, and then Elizabeth would deliver the child to them and sign papers.
So was Tammy Smith in the background of this recording as
Yes.
well? Okay. And did they indicate that if this was done, that Elizabeth said she would come back with Gabriel?
Yes.
Now, in particular, regarding contacting Elizabeth Johnson during this time, what was said about letting them deal with the situation versus Logan McQuarrie calling Elizabeth himself?
Well, Jack made a comment at the end of the call that he didn't want him to mess anything up.
Did he say, let us take the lead on this? Or
Yes.
something to that effect?
Yes.
Right, now after you assisted in preparing this presentation, which included reviewing these recordings, you conducted further investigation, correct?
I did.
All right. In particular, on or about January 11th through the 13th of 2010, did you follow up by contacting an individual by the name of Craig Cherry?
I did.
And what was the purpose in contacting him?
There had been a news account with information that the name of Craig Cherry was written on some paternity paperwork associated with this family court case.
And so you were following up by getting information from him regarding that?
Yes.
All right. In addition, on January 14th, 2010, did you go to the court and obtain the court documents that had been filed in this case?
I did.
All right. And in particular, you obtained the originals. Is that correct?
I obtained all the originals from the clerk of the court.
And what was the purpose in obtaining the originals at that time?
We wanted to preserve them. I found out that typically original documents are scanned, and the scanned documents become part of the public record. Original documents are then held for a short period of time for a series of QC checks or quality control checks, and then all original documents are purged.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's marked as Exhibit Number 10. Do you recognize this envelope?
I do.
And what does that envelope contain?
It contains the original family court documents from this Superior Court case.
And are those the ones you picked up on January 14th, 2010?
They are. They have my name, my badge number, a description, and I recognize markings on the outside of the envelope.
Thank you. Now, also on the date of January 14th, 2010, did you participate in a search warrant that was conducted at Tammy Smith's residence?
I did.
And what was your role during that search warrant?
I was to document the scene by being the scribe.
Okay. And what does that mean?
In this incident, I took photographs of the exterior and interior of the home, and then I also, in the scribe role, my job was to obtain found evidence from the searchers, the other detectives that were helping us, and they provided them to me. I took them into my custody, bagged them, marked them, transported them, and impounded them.
And there were a number of items that others collected at that scene and that you then impounded into evidence, correct?
There were 8.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's marked as Exhibit Number 9. Do you recognize this envelope?
I do.
And what does that envelope contain?
It contains court documents, and it has my name, badge number, and my initials on the envelope.
And are those items that were seized at the home of Tammy Smith on January 14th, 2010?
Yes.
The state moves to enter into evidence at this time Exhibit Number 9.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 9 is admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
You may.
And Detective, the first item that I'm showing from this envelope indicates that this is a temporary guardianship by power of attorney.
Yes.
And is this one of the documents, I believe you already stated, that was taken from Tammy Smith's home that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, could you please read it into the record?
State of Arizona, County of Maricopa, temporary guardianship by power of attorney, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute Section 14-5104, I, Elizabeth Joanne Johnson, delegate to Tammy Peters Smith and Jackie Dawn Smith all of the powers that I have regarding the care, custody, and control of my minor child, Gabriel Scott Johnson, born May 3rd, 2009, except the power to consent to marriage or adoption of the minor. Among specific powers that I delegate, and without intending to limit all other powers hereby delegated, I hereby grant the temporary guardian my full authorization to administer general first aid treatment for any injuries or illnesses experienced by the minor. I authorize the temporary guardian to summon any and all professional emergency personnel to attend, transport, and treat the participant and to issue consent for any X-ray, anesthetic, blood transfusion, medication, or other medical diagnosis, treatment, or hospital care deemed advisable by Tammy Peter Smith and or Jackie Dawn Smith, and to be rendered under the general supervision of any licensed physician, surgeon, dentist, hospital, or other medical professional or institution duly licensed to practice in the state of which such treatment is to occur. Dated this 9th day of December 2009, mother, there's a signature, subscribed and sworn to before me this 9th day of September 2009. A notary public signature appears that is named Erica Flores, and my commission expires June 2nd, 2012.
And I believe you might have slipped earlier and said September. Is this dated December of 2009?
It is.
In addition, within the items that were found, is this a court information?
Yes.
Okay. And in addition, there's another document that was found. Would you please read that into the record?
Yes. Date Saturday, December 20th, 2009. Logan Scott McQuarrie has informed me that Judge Michael McVeigh ordered a visitation for Gabriel Scott Johnson on Saturday, December 20th, 2009, from 8 a.m. until Monday, December 22nd, 2009 at 8 a.m. It was not my understanding that this was an official order, but Logan Scott McQuarrie told me that he would file something against me in court if I did not have the baby ready for him to take on Saturday at 8 a.m. I want to do the right thing legally, therefore I am surrendering the child for a visit. Since I do not receive any child support, I am only going to furnish one bottle of Formula 1 diaper, a couple of diaper wipes, one blanket, and one sleeper. I just can't afford to replace items that are not returned. In return, I expect Logan Scott McQuarrie to drop Gabriel Scott Johnson off to me on time on Monday, December 22nd at 8 a.m. Address, phone number where Gabriel Scott Johnson will be sleeping during this visit. By signing this, we both agree to stick to this agreement for this visit with Gabriel Scott Johnson in order for all of us, especially Gabriel, to feel secure. Elizabeth Joanne Johnson, Logan Scott McQuarrie.
Now, aside from taking these items into evidence, did you conduct any further investigation regarding these particular items?
No.
Now, drawing your attention to the date of January 15th, 2010, did you obtain at that time recordings from Judge McVeigh at the Maricopa County Superior Court?
I did.
Okay, and were those recordings of the custody proceedings that had occurred in this case?
They were.
Okay, in particular, were there two custody proceedings that occurred?
Yes.
One on December 17th, 2009,
Yes.
and one on December 28th, 2009.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now the one on December 20th is the one that you actually attended, correct?
Correct.
You did not attend the one on the 17th.
I did not.
All right, may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you Exhibits 59 and 118. Exhibit 59, do you recognize that envelope?
I do.
And what does that envelope contain?
It contains 2 DVDs, Superior Court and Family Court case number that's involved in this incident. Has my name and my ID number and my initials from when I sealed the envelope.
Okay, and I'm showing you exhibit number 118.
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that envelope contain?
It contains the recordings from the December 17th case.
Okay, and is that recording in exhibit 118 taken from the recording contained in exhibit 59?
Yes.
to enter into evidence at this time Exhibit 118.
Any objection?
Objection.
Exhibit 118 is admitted.
Your Honor, and the state would like to publish 118 at this time. It is a recording that's about 22 minutes long.
That means it's probably time for us to take our break for the afternoon. So we're going to go ahead and take our usual afternoon break right now, and then we'll come back with Exhibit 118. So we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Until then, remember the admonition. We'll see you in about 15 minutes. Everyone, please be seated. Let the record reflect the presence of the jury panel, defendant, and counsel. We left off with Detective Duplissis. We're getting ready to play video and audio. Mr. Ramuna, why don't you remind the jury of what they're about to see?
Actually, I do have a couple questions for the detective to kind of put it back into context.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, you obtained, earlier you testified that you obtained the original court documents in this case.
I did.
And specifically, they contain the petition to establish paternity filed by Logan McQuarrie, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
As well as the responses filed by Elizabeth Johnson in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, and in particular, the petition to establish child custody and parenting time filed by Logan McQuarrie, was that filed on December 11th, 2009?
It was.
And was that around 12:47?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the response that was filed by Elizabeth Johnson, was that filed on December 14th, 2009?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that at 17:18 hours?
Yes, ma'am.
Which would be about 5:18 p.m.?
Yes, that's correct.
And the hearing that we are about to watch then occurred on December 17th, correct?
Yes.
And that was the hearing essentially that's in response to this petition and being filed.
Correct.
What is Gabriel's last name?
Johnson.
Johnson? Okay, Gabriel Johnson. A male child born on May 3, 2009. May I see that, please, again? Okay. By the way, you signed this acknowledgement of paternity as well, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's a sworn statement you filed under oath, so. Now, just so you know, you have the right to challenge his paternity, but if you do that, you're going to have to file a motion, and then if you want, you can ask the court to order a paternity test, but at this point, if there's going to be a paternity test, I'm going to order you to pay for it. And they're expensive, they're like $300 or $400, but legally at this point, he's the father, given your signing an acknowledgement of paternity and given the fact that you authorized the state to put his name on the birth certificate as the father. Like I say, you can ask the court, you can challenge that, and you can ask the court to order a paternity test, but at this point, if that's what you're going to do, then I'm going to order you to pay for it, okay? All right. Well, have the two of you lived together since the baby has been born?
No, the father's been in jail for quite some time after
Okay,
the child was
stop right where you are. Okay, the answer is yes or it's no. Have you ever lived together since the baby's been born?
Yes.
Okay, so a moment ago you said no, but apparently that's not correct. You did live together for some period of time.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Johnson, or I keep saying Mr. Johnson, Mr. McQuarrie, how long did you and mother live together after your baby was born?
The baby was born on May 3rd, and I was incarcerated in Tent City in the work furlough program, so I did get out every day to see the baby. I wasn't there when the baby was born.
Okay.
But I got out on June 18th,
Okay, so
and I've been living there ever since.
Are you still living together?
No, recently just separated.
Okay, so you lived together from June 17th or 18th until when?
Till about a week ago, Thursday.
Okay. Do you agree or disagree with that?
It was always off again, on again. He would move out and leave. And
Okay. Okay, so do you agree with this much? So starting about June 17th or 18th until about a week ago, you lived together on and off?
yes,
Okay. More on or more off?
more on.
Okay. And that's two separate words, more on, not moron. Right?
Yes.
Little humor here. Okay. Well, where is the baby residing now, Ms. Johnson?
Right now, he should be on his way to the courtroom.
On his way where?
On his way here.
Why would the baby be on his way here?
Why would he?
Yeah, I'm not going to have him testify as a witness. Why would you bring him
I thought
here?
it would be a good idea to bring him.
No, it's not a good idea. No. Okay. Well, where has he been living the last week or so since you've split up is really what I was asking.
Yes, he's been in my custody.
Okay.
I've been having help with babysitting from friends.
Okay. All right. Well, do the two of you have an understanding of what the difference is between sole legal custody and joint legal custody? Mr. McCoy, let me begin with you, and then I'll ask Mom. Do you understand the difference between the two?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what you think the difference is.
Sole custody is in my custody only. My custody and joint custody is sharing time with her and splitting the time, living time, and going back and forth.
Okay, what do you think?
I agree with that.
Okay, you're both wrong. So let me start over. You don't understand what the difference is, and that's why I was asking, because I'll explain it to you. Legal custody has nothing to do with the amount of parenting time the child spends with each of you. It has to do with how significant decisions in the child's life are made. When you share joint legal custody, neither parent can make a significant life decision on behalf of the child without consulting the other parent. What are significant life decisions? Significant life decisions are such things as where the child goes to school, education, what type of religious training, if any, the child receives, medical care, the big things in life, okay? Not whether the child goes to school with a peanut butter or a bologna sandwich, okay? That's day-to-day stuff, okay? You can share joint legal custody and the child can live 90% with one parent and 10% with the other. Or it can be 50-50. It has nothing to do with parenting time. Parenting time is an entirely different concept. So I'm only going to focus right now on decision making. And what I'm going to ask each of you, I just need a very quick answer. I don't want to hear your arguments today. I just want to know whether you favor joint legal custody, in other words, you share in the decisions together as a mom and a dad, or whether you think one parent and one parent only should get to make those decisions and the other parent should have nothing to say about it. So, Mr. McQuarrie, you're the petitioner. I'll start with you. Do you favor joint legal custody or do you favor sole legal custody?
I think it should be joint.
Okay. You believe that you should share in the decision making with Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, do you believe that you should share joint legal custody, or do you believe that there should be sole legal custody to one of you?
I agree with joint custody.
Okay, so you and Dad should talk to each other before any significant life decisions are made, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. We've just made some progress, okay? No, I'll run the thing, and I'll give you a chance when we're done. If you have any questions, I'll let you ask. But let me get through what I need to get through right now, okay? Now we need to talk about parenting time. And so, before I go any further, Ms. Johnson, are you nursing the baby right now?
No.
Okay. How long ago did you nurse at all?
No, I never.
Okay, that's fine. Do you work, sir?
Yes.
What are your work days? What are your work hours?
I work 32 and a half hours a week.
Okay.
I work from 5 to 10:30 at night, or 4 to 10:30 at night.
4 o'clock in the afternoon until 10:30 at night?
Yes.
And what days of the week do you work?
It's different. I work 5 days a week, but they're different every week.
Well, what kind of business are you in?
I work at the 99-cent stores at Stocker.
Okay. All right. They're open 7 days, right?
Yes.
So you can work 4 out of any 7 days.
Yeah.
How much say do you have over your schedule, or does the store set the schedule for you?
They set the schedule, but I can request a schedule.
Okay.
A set schedule.
All right. Ms. Johnson, what is your work schedule?
I am not currently working.
Okay. Mr. McQuarrie, since your baby has been born, has the baby lived most of his life with his mother, most of his life with you, or would you say it's about equal? Until maybe the last week or so.
equal.
Until the last week or so?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you say, Ms. Johnson?
Most of his time with me, all of his time with me.
Okay. Is that in part because Mr. McQuarrie is working during the day?
Yes, and also because he was in jail, and he does decide when he leaves and goes, and he comes and goes.
All right, fair enough. Mr. McQuarrie, what were you in jail for when your child was born and prior to your release in June?
A probation violation. I
Okay.
did 4 months to complete probation, and I got off.
Okay. Well, that of course begs the question of what you were on probation for. So what were you on probation for?
When I was 18, it was for, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I think it was either possession of stolen property or attempted possession. Yeah, the attempted possession of stolen property, something in the
Possession of stolen property for sale?
Well, no, I was in a vehicle with stolen property in the trunk.
I see.
It was my friend's car, and we got charged with the same thing.
Okay. What class of felony was it? Do you remember?
Can I ask my father?
Sure. Go ahead and ask your dad.
Class was?
Class 5 felony? Okay. And you say it occurred when you were 18. How old are you now?
24.
Okay. That's a long time to be on probation, 6 years. Yeah, okay. And have you been discharged from probation after doing your time this summer?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a Class 5 felony on your record now, right? Okay, all right. Any other convictions?
That's my only conviction.
Okay. All right, now, tell the court, please, what you believe between now and the time we can get to a hearing, because we can't try the case today. What type of parenting time schedule you'd like to see over, let's say, the next 4 to 6 weeks. Just give me your proposal.
My proposal?
Yeah.
I would like to take care of the child and being in my custody so that I can make sure that he's in okay hands. May I say something on behalf of that too?
I'd like your proposal right now. Monday, give me a schedule where the child's with you and a schedule where the child is with his mother.
I could have him, most of the week, and she can.
Okay, give me a schedule. In other words, I would like to have Sunday through Wednesday morning, and I would like the child to be with his mother. I'm making it up, but giving you an example, I would like the child to be with his mother from Wednesday morning to Sunday morning. Whatever the case may be, just give me a schedule.
Monday through Friday, and she had him on the weekends.
Okay, that's your proposal. All right, fair enough. Now, Ms. Johnson, what is your proposal to share time between your baby and his father?
It would be the opposite, Monday through Friday with me and him having weekends.
Okay. Where are you living right now?
With my father.
Okay. Do you and your father live in a house or in an apartment?
A house.
Okay. Who else lives there other than the two of you?
His girlfriend and son.
Okay. How old is his son?
How old is Matt? 21.
Okay. All right. How many bedrooms are in the house?
3 bedrooms.
Okay. Is there a crib?
I have to get one.
You don't have a crib right now?
No, not
Okay. All right. What experience, other than this child, what experience do you have in raising infants?
Before this relationship, I was with a girl for 4.5 years and started going out with her when her daughter was 6 months old and helped her raise her daughter until she was 4.5.
Okay. All right. Any neglect reports to CPS against either of you?
I talked to CPS about it. Yes, okay. They said they were going to do an investigation on the both of us.
Okay.
And
when did you file your CPS report?
It was filed. The case numbers on the paperwork. It was last week. Okay. And the baby is in her care. It's with another family.
All right. Okay. Is the baby in your care or is the baby with another family?
He's in my care, and everything he's saying is not true.
Okay.
About CPS, he filed that in retaliation, and it was closed the next day.
Yeah, well, the timing is curious. Yeah, timing's curious. I will acknowledge that. All right. Why don't you pick 3 days during the week that you'd like?
Can I do Mondays and Tuesdays and Saturdays?
Okay, Monday, Tuesday, and Saturday. And then any reason that you're not available to care for the child on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday?
I would like to request him have maybe Sunday instead of Saturday because I do go to, I take a class Sunday.
Can I do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday?
Sure. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Good. Okay, we made a little progress. I'm sure neither of you are completely happy with it, but there's some progress there. Okay? So, it is ordered that until the temporary orders hearing, actually, I'm just going to set it for a final hearing, Dan, and we'll order a parenting conference. It is ordered that the child shall reside with mother from Wednesday morning through Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. until Sunday morning. What time do you go to class?
In the afternoon, 2:30.
Okay, until Sunday morning at 8 a.m. and with father from Sunday morning at 8 a.m. through Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. We'll set this for a hearing and I'm going to order a parenting conference. And Dan, I'd say about 90 minutes. Are either of you receiving any forms of government assistance for the baby?
Yes, I am.
You are.
I provided it all for him.
That's fine. It's a 4D court then, 4D case, which means that I will not resolve the child support issue, but I will forward this to the assigned 4D court. Melinda will forward this to the assigned 4D court in order that a child support hearing may be scheduled. Okay? Well, what assistance are you receiving?
Medical assistance and food stamps, and I'm also on WIC.
Okay.
Child.
Yeah, that's going to be a 4D, so let's just send it on its way. Okay? All right. When you leave here, when I leave the bench, and before you leave here, Melinda, my clerk, is making out a couple of little lavender slips for you each, okay? And those lavender slips are for a parenting conference. What's going to happen at a parenting conference is someone from the court, on behalf of the court, a master's level or perhaps somebody with a PhD is going to do a parenting conference, and they're going to make a custody evaluation for the court, and they're going to put all of that information in a written report prior to your hearing. What they will do at that parenting conference is they will interview Miriam, they'll interview Dad, and they're going to gather a bunch of information that's really important for me to have and know about before the hearing. They'll put that in about a 10, 12-page report. They'll send a copy of that to each of you, and they're going to send a copy of that to me. I will read that before the hearing. I will expect that each of you will have read that before the hearing. It's extremely important. I'm not going to be favorably impressed with either of you if you fail to show up for the conference, you show up late, you conduct yourselves inappropriately, or if you haven't read the report before coming into the court. So please make sure that you have shown up on time, been polite and cooperative, and finally that you read the report before the hearing, because it's going to be an important report where you're concerned. I want to, before I say anything further, Ms. Johnson, how old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23, okay. From the little bit I know, this case has gotten off to a kind of an ugly start, a really ugly start. But there's been some progress here today. You agreed to joint legal custody. That's a positive. And neither of you seem to have a serious problem with sharing time. I mean, I'm sure you think 4 days is too much for him, and you think 3 days is too much for her. But, the reality is you're going to share time with your child for the next 18 years. It's not going to be a situation, unless one of you is clearly unfit, it's not going to be a situation where one of you has no time with the child. You're going to have to share time. Sharing doesn't mean 50-50. Maybe it does mean 50-50 if the court finds that appropriate, but usually 50-50 is not the plan. The child needs an anchor. The child needs basically one place to call home, and that said, it's more important that he spend quality time with each parent rather than quantity time. But the way the two of you have to get by is, once you've decided you don't want to be a couple anymore, that's fine. Get rid of the notion that you need to be a couple and start focusing on the notion that you need to be a couple of parents. You're going to make your child's life miserable for the next 17 or 18 years if the two of you do nothing but attack each other and run the other parent down to your child. You're going to make your child's life miserable. You need to knock it off, and quite frankly, I'm going to put it as bluntly to you as I can. It's time for the two of you to grow up, okay? And just be a good dad and be a good mom. And part of being a good dad means being supportive with your child about his mother. In other words, encouraging the child to love his mother and to spend all sorts of time with her. And your responsibility as a mother is to do just the same thing, is to support your child's relationship with his father, even if you're not particularly crazy about him. Your child needs that security. So that's as much as I'm going to say to you now. We better settle Christmas here and now, or we're going to have a problem. So you're each going to get one of the 2 days. Do you prefer Christmas Eve or Christmas Day?
Christmas Day.
Okay. Do you prefer Christmas Eve or Christmas Day?
Christmas Day. We
Okay.
spend Thanksgiving with her family.
Okay. This year, you will get Christmas Eve. This year, you will get Christmas Day. Next year, it reverses itself. In 2009 and every odd-numbered year thereafter, father shall have the child for Christmas Eve and mother shall have the child for Christmas Day. In 2010 and every even-numbered year thereafter, mother will have the child for Christmas Eve and father will have the child for Christmas Day. Christmas Eve is defined as December 24 at 8 a.m. through December 25 at 8 a.m. Christmas Day is defined as December 25 at 8 a.m. through December 26 at 8 a.m. Do either of you have an order of protection against the other right now?
No.
No? Okay. Don't do something that some parties do, and it will not sit well with your judge if either of you do it. Now, if either of you feel you need to take out an order of protection against the other person because something happens after today, that's fine. But don't leave here and go to some other judge and put your child on the order of protection so that the other parent can't spend time with the child. That will frost your judge something fierce. You should only do that if there's something that occurs after today that is a danger to your child. After today, don't start using your child as a pawn in orders of protection, or you will draw the wrath of this court, both of you. All right? Dan?
March 26th at 8:30.
Our hearing is March the 26th at 8:30. Okay? Thank you, and good luck to both of you.
All rise, please. This is just a survey.
Mr. Romano, go ahead.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, you testified about some recorded telephone conversations that Logan McQuarrie recorded. Do you recall that?
I did.
And those conversations, for the most part, were made after Elizabeth Johnson left the state of Arizona. Is that right?
It's difficult to say exactly. The dates of the calls and the times of the calls are not time-stamped on the digital recorder because it was one of the earliest versions of digital recording devices.
Okay, but you're familiar with the sort of timeline of events in this case, are you not?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that Elizabeth Johnson very likely left the state of Arizona on December 18th, 2009 for the state of Texas?
Somewhere around that date, yes, sir.
Okay, and there was one particular call that you monitored between Logan McQuarrie and Jack Smith and Tammy Smith. Do you recall that call?
Yes, sir.
And during that call, would it be fair to say that the context of that call was Jack Smith sort of indicating to Logan McQuarrie among other things, at least that Elizabeth Johnson was in favor of the adoption. Do you recall that?
True.
In addition to that, he was sort of requesting that Logan McQuarrie sign the adoption papers, right?
Correct.
And would it be accurate to say there was sort of a promise involved in that request, wasn't there?
I don't know that I'd use the word promise.
Well, would it be fair to say that it was communicated to Logan McQuarrie that if he would just sign those adoption papers, then Jack and Tammy Smith would somehow arrange for Elizabeth Johnson to bring Gabriel Johnson back?
I think there was an inference to that, yes.
Do you have any information, actually strike that, are you aware of any evidence anywhere in this case that Elizabeth Johnson was party to any such agreement with the Smiths?
No.
Are you aware of any evidence anywhere in this case that Elizabeth Johnson made any such agreement to do that with the Smiths?
Well, I think earlier she had agreed to allow the child to live with her.
Right, but I'm talking about in this phone call. At this particular time, in fact, let me back up. In this particular phone call that we're talking about, with Jack Smith communicating with Logan McQuarrie, where he sort of has this discussion about, and of course I'm paraphrasing, hey, sign the adoption papers and we'll arrange to have Gabriel Johnson brought back to Arizona. Is that a fair paraphrasing of that call?
In that phone call, yes.
Okay, at that point in time, Elizabeth Johnson had already left the state of Arizona. Is that fair?
Yes.
And she was likely in Texas?
I believe so.
Okay. You don't have any information that at that point in time that Elizabeth Johnson had any such agreement with either of the Smiths?
I don't specifically.
You're not aware of any evidence in the case anywhere that would suggest that?
Other detectives may have more information about that.
But you're not aware of any evidence?
But I'm not aware. Correct.
Okay. In fact, you don't know, wouldn't it be accurate to say that you don't know whether or not Elizabeth Johnson was even aware of any such offer in that phone call from the Smiths to Logan McQuarrie? Would that be accurate?
I do not.
Who's Craig Cherry?
Craig Cherry is the cousin of Tammy Smith.
Okay. And his name appeared on a court document, did it not?
It did, sir.
And what was that document?
It was a document that is included in that packet of family court documents from this family court case. It was a challenge of paternity.
And what did his name appear to be representing on that court document?
As a possible father, potential father of the missing child.
Do you know whether or not Mr. Cherry signed that document?
I know that he did not.
He did not sign it. Do you know who signed it?
I do.
Who signed it?
Tammy Smith.
And do you know of any evidence in this case that would suggest that Elizabeth Johnson had anything to do with that?
With what, sir?
With that signature, with Tammy Smith signing Mr. Cherry's name on that document?
I do not.
And you're not aware of any evidence in the entire case that would suggest such a thing, are you?
Nothing that immediately comes to mind.
Judge, could I have permission to republish a portion of Exhibit 9?
And Exhibit 9 is in, correct?
It is. It's already been published.
You may publish it.
Thank you, Judge.
Kind of takes a minute to warm up. It's coming. And there we go.
Detective, do you recognize what's up on the screen as a portion of Exhibit 9 that's previously been published to the jury?
I do, sir.
And what is that?
This is one of multiple pages of documents that were seized from the Smith home during the service of a search warrant.
So this document came from the home of the Smiths?
Correct, sir.
In fact, you read this document to the jury, right?
I did earlier.
And I'm pushing the document up a little bit so we can see. There's two signature lines there, are there not?
There are, sir.
Any signatures on that document?
There are not, sir.
No. Do you have any information whatsoever at all that this portion of Exhibit 9 was made with any knowledge or consent of Elizabeth Johnson?
Sir, I do not.
Would it be accurate to say that you don't have any information whatsoever from any source at all that Elizabeth Johnson had anything to do with that document?
I do not.
Thank you, Judge. Nothing further.
Thank you. Redirect, Mr. Ramuno.
Thank you. Detective, you testified earlier about picking up the court documents, the original court documents on January 14th, 2009, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I believe earlier I asked you some questions about Elizabeth Johnson's response, which was filed on December 14th, 2009.
You did?
All right. Now, defense counsel asked you some questions about Craig Cherry, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and Craig Cherry's name appears in this document, correct?
It does.
In particular, it lists him as a potential father, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And requests a DNA test to be done on him and Logan McQuarrie.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, this document is signed with a signature indicating Elizabeth Johnson, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the jury have any questions for Detective Duplissis before we let him go? Doesn't look like it. May this witness step down, Mr. Ramuno?
Yes, please. Thank
Mr.
you.
Victor?
Be excused, Judge?
Yes.
Yes, Judge.
You may be excused. And the state may call its next witness.
Officer Snell, would you please introduce yourself?
My name is J.D. Snell. I've been a Tempe police officer for approximately 4 years.
And what do you do for the Tempe Police Department as a police officer?
I'm a patrol officer.
And have you been a patrol officer the whole time you've been with Tempe Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working as a patrol officer back on December 27, 2009?
Yes.
And what shift did you work on that day?
7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
On that date, did you receive a call out to respond to the Tempe Police Station?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the reason you were called to respond to the police station?
Custodial interference. I believe it was a call about the subject not being able to see his child.
And that's the information you had before you arrived at the police station?
Yes, ma'am.
And what time of day did you arrive there at the police station?
About 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
When you arrived, who did you talk to when you first got there?
Logan McQuarrie.
And when you talked to Logan McQuarrie, did he provide you some information about what was going on?
Yes.
And at the time that Logan McQuarrie provided you with some information, did he provide you with a recorder?
Yes.
And when he provided you with a recorder, did you listen to what was on the recorder?
Yes, ma'am.
At the time you listened to what was on the recorder, what did you specifically hear?
I heard two people talking to each other. I heard a woman that Logan referred to as Elizabeth saying that she killed the baby.
And when you heard this, did you believe that this call now had turned into something more than a custodial interference?
Yes, ma'am.
And based on that, what did you proceed to do?
I called my sergeant.
And did you advise your sergeant of what was going on?
Yes, ma'am.
After you advised your sergeant, did you continue to talk to Logan McQuarrie, or did you just let someone else take over the case at that point?
I continued to talk to him.
And while you were talking to Logan McQuarrie, we already talked about the recorder. I'm actually going to ask to approach.
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 12. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the recorder that Logan had the day he came to the station.
And did you at some point on the date of December 27, 2009, impound that recorder into evidence?
Yes.
And does your information, your initials, are they contained on the item to show that you did that?
Yes.
While you were talking to Logan McQuarrie and you contacted your supervisor, did you have any conversations with anybody else?
While I was talking to Logan, no, just just Logan.
During the time period that you were talking to Logan, did you have the opportunity to view his telephone?
Yes.
And when you viewed his telephone, what did you see on the telephone?
Text messages.
And what did you do with those text messages?
I photographed them and then wrote them down on field cards, the content.
Did you also record the content of them onto a recording?
I don't recall.
You indicated that you photographed them. Did you photograph the actual phone?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 19. Do you recognize exhibit number 19?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
Logan's phone.
And are those the photographs that you took of his phone?
Yes.
Actually, I'm going to look at, because I can't remember if this is in evidence already. This time I move for the admission of exhibit number 19.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 19 is admitted.
During the time that you were talking to Logan, what happened with his telephone?
His telephone lost battery power.
And so did he, at that point, turn it off?
Yeah, he turned it off.
Later on, when you were talking to Logan, didn't he turn the telephone back on?
Yeah, his father brought him a battery.
And when the battery came, were you able to see additional text messages on there?
Yes, ma'am.
During your conversation with Logan McQuarrie, or during your investigation, did the name Tammy Smith come up?
Yes.
And how did that name come up?
Logan brought her up about where Gabriel might have been, or that she had wanted to adopt Gabriel at some time.
And did you have any contact with Tammy Smith on that day?
I spoke to her briefly on the telephone.
And when you spoke to Tammy, were you trying to obtain information on whether or not she knew Gabriel's whereabouts?
Yes, ma'am.
And did she indicate that she knew where he was at that time?
Not specifically, but she knew that he was with Elizabeth.
She indicated that he was with Elizabeth?
Yeah.
And after you talked to Tammy Smith, did you again talk to Logan McQuarrie about Tammy Smith?
Yes.
And did Logan provide you some additional information about Tammy Smith?
He had some text messages from Tammy Smith.
Did he also have some recordings from Tammy Smith?
If you're going to look, when she's asking you a question, if you don't remember, let her know, and then if it may be in your report, then you can refresh your recollection. But first answer just off your memory, and if you can't remember, then you can look at your report.
Yes, sir.
Do you need to review your report?
Yes, ma'am.
If you could do that.
Can you repeat the question?
I don't remember the question, so I'll start over. Did Logan indicate to you that there were some phone calls that he had with Tammy Smith on his recorder?
Yes.
And is that the same recorder that we already talked about?
Yes.
Did you listen to the conversations between Logan and Tammy Smith?
I don't recall that.
Now, we talked about the text message. Did you look at the text messages that Logan got from Tammy Smith?
Yes.
Like the text messages that he got from Elizabeth Johnson, did you write those down on an FI card?
No, ma'am.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 8. Would you go ahead and take a look and tell us if you recognize what's in exhibit number 8?
The field cards that I wrote, the text messages from Elizabeth to Logan on.
And when you filled those out, did you write those word for word as to what was on Logan's phone?
Yes, sir.
I move for the admission of exhibit number 8.
Any objection?
Judge, can we see that briefly?
Sure.
We have no objection, Judge.
Exhibit 8 is admitted.
Your Honor, permission to publish?
You may.
And Officer Snell, did you number these cards?
Yes, sir.
And do the numbers indicate an order that you saw these?
Yes.
Did you also date stamp and time stamp these?
Yes.
And the date and time, where did you get those?
Off the phone.
So they were the date and time listed on Logan's phone?
Yes.
Would you please tell us, for the record, what this exhibit is?
It's the text message from Logan's phone.
And is this the one you indicated as number 1?
Yes.
And what does it say?
I killed him.
And what's the date?
12/27/09, 11:53 a.m.
Would you please indicate for the record what number this is?
Number 2.
And what's the number there at the top? You don't have to read the number into the record, but tell us where you got that number.
It was the phone number showing on Logan's phone.
The phone number?
From the sender. it looked
From the
like.
sender. And what does it say?
Coward bitch.
And what is the date from that?
12/27/09, 12:41 p.m.
And what does it say after that?
Pathetic loser, run to daddy.
And the date?
12/27/09, 12:41 p.m.
And I'm showing the card you numbered as number 3. Can you tell us what that says?
It says, fine, don't talk to me, asshole, but you will never see Gabriel again. I made sure of that. And you can spend the rest of your pathetic life wondering about him.
And what was the date?
12/27/09 at 12:41 p.m.
And this is number 4. Can you tell us what number 4 says?
It says, you will never find me. I'm already boarding a plane out of the country. When I'm safe, I'll email you the exact location of dead Gabriel's little blue body if it's 12/27/09 at 12:41 p.m.
And FI card number 5.
If the garbage don't come first, well, I'm done with you two fucks. This is what liars like you deserve. 12/27/09, 12:41 p.m.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 13 and 14. Do you recognize those 2 exhibits?
They're CDs from the conversation I had with Logan.
And are they CDs that you listened to earlier today?
Yes.
And do those 2 CDs contain conversations that were on Logan's recorder between himself and Elizabeth Johnson?
Yes.
And at this time, I move to admit exhibits number 13 and 14.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibits 13 and 14 are admitted.
And Officer Snell, the time you met with Logan McQuarrie, did he also provide you a copy of a court document showing that he had a temporary custody warrant to take Gabriel?
Yes.
And did he provide that to you?
Yes, ma'am.
After you had these conversations with Logan McQuarrie and listened to the recordings and wrote down the text messages, did you have any other involvement in the investigation on that day?
On that day, no.
And what happened as far as your involvement? What was it passed on to somebody?
Well, we debriefed the detectives, and then I went home and wrote the report the next day.
Okay, so detectives were called out?
Yes,
From what unit?
I'm not sure.
And did you specifically brief the detectives based on the information you had?
I was one of the officers who did, yes.
Did you have any other involvement in this case?
No.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
No questions, Judge.
Okay. Before we let Officer Snell go, does the jury have any questions for him? Doesn't look like it. May this witness be excused. Ms. Andrews?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Victor?
Yes, Judge.
You may step down. Thank you. And the state may call its next witness.
The state calls Officer Pina.
Okay, let's go ahead and get Officer Pena. Ms. Ramuno, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, officer. Would you please state your full name?
Alex Pina,
And, officer, who are you employed by?
City of Tempe.
How long have you been employed with the city of Tempe?
Right now, we're looking about 4 years.
And what is your current position there?
A patrol officer?
And have you been in patrol all 4 years that you've been there thus far?
Yes.
I'm going to draw your attention back to December of 2009. Did you become involved in an investigation involving a missing child by the name of Gabriel Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, and specifically, did you become involved on December 27th, 2009?
Yes.
How was it that you became involved that day?
We got a call to do a welfare check at the trailer park at 4605 South Priest, trailer number 153, to check to see if there was a baby there in that trailer park.
And when you heard that call out, did you respond immediately to that location?
Yes.
And who was with you when you did that?
It was myself and my boss, Sergeant Lenzen.
All right. Now, when you went to that location, approximately what time was it?
1,300 hours?
Okay, would that be about 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yes.
All right. And when you went there, what did you find?
Initially, there was nobody home at the trailer home. About 30 minutes later, the roommate, Mr.
Malcolm Phipps? Does
Malcolm
that
Phipps,
sound
yes.
familiar? Okay.
He arrived.
All right. And when he arrived, well, during that 30 minutes, what did you do? Sit there and just kind of surveil the area?
Trying to see if we just kept knocking, trying to see maybe when or if somebody might be home soon.
And when Mr. Phipps arrived, did you speak with him?
I did.
And did you obtain information from him as to what he knew about Elizabeth Johnson and or Gabriel Johnson?
Yes.
Right. Specifically, did he tell you that he had recently moved into the home?
Yes.
All right. Did he indicate to you when the last time was that he had seen Elizabeth?
I believe he mentioned either the 15th or the 16th of December.
And other than that information, was he able to give you any additional information as to where Elizabeth may be or the baby may be?
Other than that Elizabeth was going to take a trip to Texas because she was having problems with her boyfriend.
Now, after you spoke with him, did you ask him for permission to search the home?
I did.
And the surrounding area of the home?
Yes.
And did he grant you that permission?
Yes.
Okay, so did you in fact search the home at that time?
Yes.
What did you do to search the home?
Just checked all the rooms, looking for a baby toys, baby items. Checked his room, checked the living room, and checked Elizabeth's room.
Okay. And were you able to find anything in the home indicative of baby items?
Inside the home, no.
Were you able to find things outside of the home that indicated that they were baby items?
There was a metal shed directly right outside in the parking lot area, and inside that shed there was a folded up crib and with baby blanket items in it and other miscellaneous items.
Okay. And did you note all of that in your report?
Yes.
Now, at that time also, did you receive information that a family with the last name Smith might have been involved with possibly adopting the child?
Yes.
All right. And what did you do to follow up on that information?
I initially called Tammy Smith and her husband, Jack Smith. Initially, I talked to Jack, and then he transferred me about 5 minutes, and then he transferred me over to Tammy.
Okay. And were you able to determine at that time whether the baby was with them?
According to what Tammy said, they had him, the baby Gabriel, that night, and they're supposed to transfer him over to Elizabeth that morning.
Okay. And was that on December 18th?
I believe so. Yeah, that's right.
did she indicate that that was the last time she had seen the baby?
Yes.
Did she also indicate that she had been in communication with Ms. Johnson while she was in Texas?
Yes.
Okay, and other than documenting that in your report, did you do any other further investigation in this matter?
No, that's all.
Now, Sergeant Lenzen was with you and assisted you in the search, correct?
No, I did the search. Sergeant Lenzen was outside.
Okay. Sergeant Lenzen, though, was able to make contact with Elizabeth Johnson during this time, correct?
Via cell phone, yes.
All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
No questions, Judge.
Thank you. Does the jury have any questions for Officer Pina before we let him go? Doesn't look like it. May this witness be excused. Ms. Romano?
Yes, please, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Victor?
Yes, Judge.
You may step down. Thank you. Would counsel please approach real quick? Ms. Romano, you may proceed.
Thank you. Sergeant Lenzen, would you please state your full name for the record?
Elizabeth Lenzen,
And Sergeant Lenzen, who are you employed by?
City of Tempe Police Department.
And what is your current, your current position is sergeant, but do you have a particular area that you work in?
The Patrol Division.
Patrol Division. And how long have you been in that position?
I've been a patrol supervisor for about 10 years.
And how long have you worked for the City of Tempe total?
19 and a half years.
I'm going to draw your attention to the date of December 27th, 2009. Do you recall becoming involved in an investigation regarding missing baby Gabriel Johnson at that time?
Yes.
Right. In particular, were you asked to go to the home where the child had last resided with the mother?
Yes.
Okay, and is that located at 4605 South Priest?
Yes.
Right. And who was with you when you went to that location?
Officer Pina.
Right, and what was the purpose in the two of you going there at that time?
To check to see if the child was there.
When you arrived at that location, what happened?
There was no one home at the time, and we obtained further information from Officer Snell, who was out with the baby's father at the North Station at 120 East 5th Street.
Okay, what was the additional information you obtained?
That the mother was supposedly en route back to the Phoenix area, and that she had the child, and that he received a couple of text messages from her, communications from her that there was harm to the child.
And while you were obtaining this information from Officer Snell, had anyone appeared at the house yet, or at the trailer?
Yes, there was a gentleman that said he was the roommate or renting a room in the trailer.
All right, was his name Malcolm Phipps?
Yes.
All right, now did you speak with him directly, or did Officer Pina speak with him?
Officer Pina spoke with him.
Now, during that time while he spoke with him, what did you do?
We attempted to call the mother of the child and speak with her, try to locate if they were both okay.
All right, and were you able to make contact with the mother of the child?
Yes, I was.
All right, and is she someone that became known to you by the name of Elizabeth Johnson?
Yes.
All right, now, when you spoke with her, where were you physically located when you spoke with her?
In the front of her trailer.
All right, and where did you obtain the information to call her?
From Officer Snell.
And when you called that number, did she answer right away?
I do believe I tried a couple of times, and then she finally did answer. We spoke.
All right, and when you spoke to her, was that around 13:52 hours?
Yes.
And that would be 1:52 in the afternoon?
Yes.
All right. What happened during that phone conversation?
I asked her if she was okay and if her baby was okay, and she said they were fine. And I asked her if she would pull over or try to pull over so we could have Texas law enforcement verify that she and the baby were okay.
Okay, did she confirm that she was in fact in the state of Texas?
That's where she said she was. She was driving back for the custody hearing.
All right, so she indicated that she was driving back for the custody hearing at that time?
Yes.
Which had been set for December 28th?
Yes.
All right, and what happened then during the conversation?
I said, is there any exits that, I asked her if there was any exit she can pull off so we can have Texas law enforcement confirm that she was okay and her baby was okay. And she said she didn't see any exits. And I said, is there any milepost markers that you're driving by that you can give us that location? Because we do need to verify that she and her baby were okay. And she said she did not see any milepost markers and there was no exits.
And what happened then?
I asked her if she could put the phone up to the baby. I asked her where the baby was, and she said he's right here next to me. And I asked her if she could put the phone up next to the baby so I could hear if the baby was there and okay. And she seemed like she put the phone over away from her speaking to me. I could just hear road noise or just noise in the background. And I said, well, I can't really hear that he's okay. And she said, well, you're not listening close enough then, are you?
Okay, and what happened after she made that comment to you?
The phone disconnected.
When you indicated that it appeared that she took the phone away from her, did you hear her voice in the background?
It faded away as she was pulling it away when we were speaking, so I assumed that's what she was doing, and she was...
And were you able to hear any signs of a child being in the car or a baby or breathing or anything like that?
No.
After the phone call was disconnected, did you try to call again?
Yes, I tried several times to call back.
And were you successful in reaching her?
No.
Now, after you spoke with her on the phone at that time, what did you do?
I coordinated with our dispatch to send an endless message to Texas for an ATL attempt to locate on Miss Johnson and her baby. I want to make sure they were both okay. And we tried pinging her phone against cell phone towers through Cricket. And the ping was pinging, I know she said she was coming back, but we got a ping near Brownsville, Texas, or off of a tower near Brownsville, which is going south and away from Arizona.
Okay. And when you use the term ping, does that mean something that locates where the cell phone is being used?
Yes, it's a tower. It'll hit off of a tower to transmit.
And who did you obtain that information from?
Our dispatcher, who was in contact with the cell phone company.
All right. And after you got that information, what did you do next?
We were sending messages to Houston to notify Houston, our DPS as well. There was a series of notifications we were attempting to make over the law enforcement network and internet. After that, we called out our command staff. They ended up showing up in detectives at the scene of the trailer, and we briefed them. And after that, we met and had a meeting at the North Station at 120 East 5th Street regarding this investigation.
And was that around 4:30 that afternoon?
Yes.
So during that time, during the time you spoke with her, and between the time that you spoke with her and the briefing, all this other investigation is continuing, and at 4:30, everyone is briefed as to the current status of the investigation.
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination, Mr. Victor.
Ms. Judge, thank you. Sergeant, you had this telephone conversation with Elizabeth Johnson back on December 27th of 2009, right?
Yes.
And you asked Elizabeth Johnson, in essence, where she was going, right?
I asked her where she was on the freeway, yes.
In what direction she was heading? Right?
Yes.
And she told you that she was on her way back to Arizona.
Yes.
But you later learned that that wasn't true at all, right?
I didn't have any investigation after that day. It was taken over by the detectives, so I don't know where she went.
Well, did you later learn, did you review the evidence about the pinging of the cell phone that she was talking to you on?
No, I didn't investigate that aspect of it.
So as you sit here today, you don't know whether or not Elizabeth Johnson was heading back to Arizona when she was talking with you, or away from Arizona when she was talking with you?
I obtained that information from our dispatcher, who obtained it from the cell phone company within hours after we spoke. So I got that from the dispatcher, who got that from the cell phone tower.
So which
Or
direct-
cell phone company, I'm sorry.
So would it be accurate to say that she was not heading back to Arizona at the time she was talking to you?
I don't know, because I'm just going off of what the information the dispatcher gave me. So I don't know the accuracy of the cell phone tower pinging information, but it was a pinging off of a tower near Brownsville, Texas, which is south of the San Antonio area.
Well, what was the information that you got from the dispatcher?
That it pinged off of a cell phone tower near Brownsville, Texas.
In other words, that's where she was near when you were talking with her on the phone.
I don't know. That's what the cell phone company told our dispatcher. I don't know her exact location where she was.
Right, but assuming that the information that you got from the dispatcher, that they got from the cell phone tower company,
is correct.
Assuming that that's correct, I understand you don't know personally, but assuming that that's correct, that's telling you where she was at the time you were speaking with her on the phone. Is that right?
Or close to it, yes.
Close to it. Did you then get a later update in terms of what direction they said she was going?
No.
Okay, so you don't know what direction.
Right.
Okay. You asked Elizabeth Johnson if she had the baby with her, right?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say she probably didn't have the baby with her at that time?
I have no idea.
You don't know whether or not you were...
I don't know if she did or not.
Okay.
I wasn't with her.
Well, let me ask it like this. Would it be fair and accurate to say that you didn't gather any evidence that the baby was present with Elizabeth Johnson on that day at that time?
Correct.
In other words, you couldn't hear any baby crying?
No.
Or any other baby noises?
No.
And of course, that's all you could have because you were on the phone, right?
Correct.
And you're not aware of any other evidence that would suggest that the baby was actually with Elizabeth Johnson on the day and time that you were speaking with Elizabeth Johnson?
Correct.
Fair enough. No further questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
All right, before we let Sergeant Lenzen go, does the jury have any questions for her? Doesn't look like it. May this witness be excused, Ms. Romuno?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Victor?
Yes, Judge.
You may step down. Thank you. Okay, I think we're close enough to the end of the day where I don't want to start another witness again. So we're going to take our evening recess, which means we'll break until tomorrow at 10:30. Really 10:30. So be here ready to go tomorrow morning at 10:30. Until then, remember the admonition, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10:30.